Good morning. I don't know if any of you saw what happened earlier or if it even went to Facebook, but apparently I hit go live instead of done when I was done typing the description of this video. And so I don't know what happened. It could have gone out into the world and you saw me futzing around with my phone. No idea. Anyway, if you've never met me, I am Rachel Perman. I'm the CEO, co-founder of RAYMA team, and I have something really important to ask you. Did you write it down? Did you write it down? No. I'm not talking about your to-do list. I am not talking about event on your calendar. I am not talking about the running list inside your head. What I'm talking about is if you wrote down, or what I'm asking you is whether or not you wrote down vision or goals for your life. I was driving to work. I'm actually still in my car in the parking lot at work, and I was listening to Craig Rochelle's podcast, and he was interviewing a pastor who, honestly, I'm not even sure who the pastor was, but he was talking about, the book that he had written and all of these things. And he said this thing that I've heard many, many times, but what he said was, it's not a vision if you don't write it down. And the theme for our 2022 Life and Business Plan Retreat is a woman with a vision for her life is unstoppable. So Mandy is watching. She wants to come on live here, so I'm going to hit the button and see if this actually works. We can talk about this together. Let me see what happens. So I say approve, send.
Hi, that worked. Hi, good morning.
Good morning. We haven't done this in so long, and this is just a lot of fun. My dog is going crazy, but anyway, I haven't listened to the podcast episode yet that you were talking about, but I love that line, that it's not a vision if you don't write it down.
Right?
That's powerful.
And I've heard it so many times with goals, with visions, with all of this, not visions, like you're saying, visions, but like vision for your life. And I was like, I thought it was so interesting because, our theme for this weekend is vision and writing it down. And I thought it was interesting because I only started really caring about writing down goals and vision like maybe 5 years ago, and I think 5 is probably being generous. It wasn't even when I started being a coach or getting into counseling and going to school and training and all of these things that I learned about vision and goals and writing things down and the power of writing things down. I didn't do it until 4 years ago. But I find it so interesting that when you write it down, things actually do happen. And it reminds me of the saying or the belief that the goals don't change, but the methods should. And I think so often we're scared to write stuff down because we're like, what if we write it down and then it's in concrete and we can never change it again? And I would just rather not write it down than get disappointed. And I think the sad thing is if we don't ever write it down, nothing ever actually happens. We just kind of float along, or things happen by accident, or we're not ready for it when it happens. So that was what I wanted to tell the people today.
I love that. First of all, this
I forgot that we says can hi. People live on Facebook.
Right? We haven't done this for so long. I didn't know this was still a thing. Do you see Auntie Rachel? Do you see her? You hear her? He was like, I need to be by you. And what's happening?
He's like,
hi. Oh, he full on maltreated me there, boy. But I think it's one of those things people really do feel like, well, what if I write it down and then I don't get there? And I think the interesting thing is that out of all the goals I've written down in the last decade, when I look back on some of them I don't care about anymore. And that's okay. I had to get it out and see if it was something that I really wanted, try it on, so that I could fully understand what the responsibility was that came with it, and see if I was really all in. And I think people don't realize that.
Because sometimes they can just be ideas.
Right?
It can just be ideas rolling around in your head. And if you And if you don't get them out, they never become anything, whether it's yeah, I don't want that anymore, or maybe it's changed or morphed into something else, or it is something that I actually want. If not, they just roll around in your head for decades and decades. And like, I can't keep that kind of stuff in my head for very long. I can hardly keep important information in my head and remember things for long, let alone like visions and dreams and goals for the future. You have to write it down.
You do. Well, and I even think, like, sorry to make people car sick with him. Like, this puppy was a vision that was written down last year. Like, everything that I've ever accomplished started out first as a goal that I wrote down. And sometimes it was even like, wouldn't it be cool if? It wasn't even like, I'm going to do this and here's how to get there. A lot of times it really was just writing it down to dream. And like, wouldn't it be cool if that happened? I wonder how I could make that happen. And that's why I think assessing it once a year is so important. Hi, Deb. Great to see you. Thanks for watching. But I think that's why it's so important, because we have to be willing to let ourselves dream. And I love, like, the rest of that verse. Like, our theme is a woman with a vision for her life is unstoppable, but it's actually ancient wisdom that says, a person without a vision will perish. So obviously it's not like we're going to just croak if we don't have a vision for our life, but there will be a part of us that dies inside. Like, there's a dream that will die, that will never even get the chance to be fully realized or fulfilled because we didn't take the time to write it down. And I think that's the thing that is the saddest.
Right. I agree. And that is something I don't want to happen. I would rather have a dream written down that I decide later isn't something that I want, that a dream that just sits in my head and like never comes to fruition, never is set out into, you know, into the atmosphere, written down. I think that's so sad when people, because people will perish with vision inside of them. Like, it happens all the time. That, you know, there's regrets that you never did this thing or that thing, and it's not always like these big visions. Sometimes it is a vision of taking care of yourself, taking care of your family, being there for the priorities and the things that are most important. Like, we're not always talking about like big visions of, you know, grandeur in your business, or big visions of having all of this influence or whatever. Sometimes it is sounds little in your head, but is a huge thing for the direction and the trajectory of your life. And I think that's why this is our 4th annual retreat. And I think that's why the retreat is so popular, because it is not, I mean, honestly, of the like 6 hours we spend together, there's probably only 2 that we write down very specific goals. The rest of that time, we are writing down all the things that we need to, going through assessments, answering questions, so we can really get clear on what it is we care about, what it is when it comes to, or what it means to be successful. Like, every woman has a different definition of success in her life. And if we just write down goals not knowing our vision and what success means, then they just kind of become meaningless, and they're just something to write down. And so we really make sure that there is time in that 2 days to reflect, because when else do we take the time to do that? Like, we do it honestly, Mandy, and I've said this many times, we do it for us because we can't find 6 hours in December either to sit down and do goals and vision planning if this wasn't an event. And so we invite all of our friends with for our goal planning session.
I love it. I know you know, it's interesting because when you say it's not always like big business goals or money goals or anything like that, I think back to, I think the very first year that we did this, I printed out the workbook and had my husband go through it with me. And it became this thing that we had some really great conversations about, like, what he wants in life. And I think back on that, and ever since then, he has drastically changed his health and his like physique, because getting healthy was something that he wanted to do. Back then he was overweight and he just wasn't eating healthy. He never worked out or exercised or anything. And he has drastically changed his entire life, and he feels better. He's lost almost like, I think, 80 pounds in 2 years, and he just has more energy than me sometimes because he's eating healthier. And that's one of the goals I'm going to work on in the coming year. But it's fascinating because if you don't take the time to write it down or even have a conversation with somebody, it doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then you just live this Groundhog Day life where you do the same thing all the time. And then nothing ever changes.
And we don't drift into our goals.
No.
Like, we don't drift into vision and dreams and goals. Like, that stuff doesn't usually just happen. It might on a small scale, but not like on the level you would want it to be. If we don't write it down, if we don't have a plan, plans can change all the time. Methods can change all the time, but it's really hard to change a plan that you don't even have.
Right.
It's really hard to change a method that you don't even have. Like, honestly, it reminds me of, when the pandemic even hit 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, nobody had plans, nobody had methods. We had to like come up with this stuff overnight, flying by the seat of our pants. Like, I don't want to live life like that. Like, yes, when these things happen, if you have goals and visions for your life, many of us had to take a back seat on the big stuff for 2020 and even into 2021. But that doesn't mean they don't still count. Like, baby steps still count. Like, one step forward still counts. And I think that's definitely what I want to look into for 2022 is it's okay if these big things did not happen in the last 2 years. All the little baby steps still count. And we can keep moving forward instead of being like, oh, well, it was just a big old wash for 2021, 2020. Let's just hope 2022 is better. I just kind of don't want to go into it thinking, let's hope it's better. Like, this is probably what it is.
Right.
So how do we do our goals and vision anyway?
Yep.
How do we change our methods and all of that so that we can still achieve the big things and the things that we want to do to be successful?
Yeah. So it's funny because do you remember at Beautiful Wholeness in Fargo a couple of years ago, like our last one before we said we're never doing them again, which we didn't know we were lying. Come here, don't eat the tree. He's still a puppy. He's like 10 months old and he's trying to eat the tree for attention. But do you remember I was telling one of the attendees that day that, if it takes her a decade to reach her dreams, will it be worth it? And then she said yes. And I said, if it takes you a lifetime, will it be worth it? And she said yes. Do you remember this moment vaguely?
I do. Okay. Yes. Yep.
It's funny because that memory has been in my mind a lot lately. Like, I'm coaching myself, asking myself, if it takes you another decade to get to where you want to go, is it worth it? Like, are you all in, or are you getting so tired that you just want to quit now and it's not, you're just going to give up?
Right.
Like, sometimes being all in, it's like that photo we were talking about, that whole little cartoon where the guy is digging for diamonds and he's so close and he's so close and he doesn't see that it's like right there and he gives up, and then the next guy comes along and gets his diamonds because he gave up so soon. Like, we don't know that. And sometimes it takes us 10 years to get to the diamonds.
Right. And we can feel like every day we're getting closer. And when you look back, you're like, oh man, it's been so long, and it can get wearying. But every day you're getting closer. Yeah. Which is an exciting thing if you want to look at it that way. Every day it's getting closer. Every day you can put towards baby steps. Some days it's 2 steps forward or 2 steps backwards, and but it all adds up. And I think that's what I love about the retreat is that we have a written, like, for the last 4 years, there's literally written proof of things that we dreamed of, things that our clients have dreamed of, things that we are celebrating from the year before, even if it didn't go exactly as planned. Like, written proof of how dreams and visions have changed or modified, or we found different ways to do it, or we're like, I don't even know why I wrote that goal down that didn't even matter. Or look at what I had accomplished, even though I didn't look at this thing every day. It's not like you got to look at your goals every single day. Some people do. Some people teach that. Mandy and I are not part of that hustle mentality of put your goals in front of you and do all the things every single day. Sometimes you can't. However, writing it down has made such a big difference in my life. And it always amazes me when I look back at the end of the year how much I actually did accomplish without even realizing that I was, it was in the back of my mind at all times that I was still taking those baby steps forward, even though sometimes I felt like I wasn't moving forward at all.
Yeah. I love it. I'm so glad you did this. I was thinking, oh gosh, I should come on live, and I was going to like do a little, I don't know, video while I was getting ready, and then my dog needed me and life took over. And then I saw that you were on here and I'm like, oh, awesome. I love it. So I'm going to hang up. You can go ahead and
like, I'm listening to it on the way. What?
What did you say?
I was listening to the podcast on the way here, and I was gonna wait until I got into the office and like got all my stuff and all the things. I'm like, I'm gonna forget what I want to say if I don't do it right now. So I'm like, I'm just gonna get in the parking lot. I haven't even turned my car off. I'm just sitting here in the parking lot telling you all that if it's not written down, it's not a vision. It's just dreams rolling around in your head. And that is not the kind of life I want to live. I know for many of our clients and for a lot of you guys watching, that's not the kind of life you want to live. And this is literally like last call.
It is.
I think we have tickets going through till tomorrow, right? For people to be able to still register. But you guys, like literally last call to join us Friday and Saturday. If you cannot be there for both days, all 3 sessions, you will have access to the recordings for 90 days. And so you can kind of create your own retreat. And it is all virtual. Mandy and I are going to be virtual. We did that on purpose. That is not like a pandemic thing. It's always been virtual because there's something about being in your own space, in your own home to process these deep questions that we're asking. Even Mandy and I, sometimes we've done them in the same space, but we actually like doing them in our own space as well. So if you can be a part of it, registration is still open until tomorrow. The link is in the description, and I'll make sure it's in there when I post this. If you have any questions, you can put them in the comment section, of course. And if you have any comments about visions and dreams and all of these things that we've been talking about, we'd love to hear it. So any last words, Mandy? I'm going to turn it on you.
I'm going to say, that's what Rachel usually says when I do that to her. I'm just going to say goodbye because my dog is about 2 seconds away from barking at me. And so I need to give him some attention before I finish getting ready to come into the office. But I look forward to working with everybody that's going to be with us. It's going to be a great time. I'm super stoked about it, and I can't wait. So we'll see you guys later.
All right. We'll see you. Bye. All right, you guys. So if you are interested in working with Mandy and I this weekend, if you could be a part of it, it's 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Friday Central Standard Time, and then 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock again on Friday Central Standard Time, and then Saturday morning 10 to noon also Central Standard Time. Like I said, if you cannot be a part of it live, or you can only be a part of some sessions, you have 90 days access. This is not happening on Facebook. This is going to be happening on Zoom and in a private community board right on our website. You get a login and all of that. So we're excited. The women are already talking in our community board. They're already getting to know each other. So we want you to be a part of it because we want to help you create that vision for your life so that what's rolling around in your head doesn't just keep rolling around year after year after year. Now's the time. Okay? Guys, have a great Tuesday. We'll talk to you later.